I'm here in the House of Light kitchen. I'm co-founder and chef and yoga teacher here at House of Light Retreat Centre in the south of Spain. So welcome. This morning I'm going to be sharing my newfound passion for vegan food, trying to introduce you to a really sweet, yummy treat to lure you into veganism, and then talking about some of my favourite ingredients or sauces for savoury food to make sure that it's really tasty and yummy what you cook. So we're just going to wait for a moment to see who would like to join. So I'll just chat a little bit. What inspired me for today's session is I've been watching documentaries basically. I've been watching Greta Thunberg, I've been watching Seaspiracy, I've been watching Cowspiracy. I've been vegetarian for almost 10 years now, but not vegan. And these documentaries are pushing me closer and closer towards becoming vegan, basically. I'm starting to feel like it's something that I personally have control over. When I watch documentaries about how we're killing the planet, I often feel a bit panicky and anxious and completely out of control, and like there's nothing I can do. But the way that I feed myself and the way that I feed my children is one thing that I'm completely in control of, and it's also something that has a huge impact on the planet and reversing the effects, the environmental effects that we've caused so far. So following that theme, I know that there's a few things that puts people off becoming vegan. I think one of them is that you often read vegan recipes and there's ingredients that you don't recognise in there. So it feels a bit overwhelming. You think you've got to restock your whole larder. If you've never heard of something, you think, oh, well, I won't bother then. So if you just do one shopping trip and just invest in a few key ingredients so that when you open pretty much any vegan cookbook, you're like, okay, got that, and you can start to cook straight away. Secondly, I think people are scared that the vegan food is going to be bland. You think if you take out meat, if you take out cheese, if you take out all the dairy, what's left? What am I going to taste? So today we're going to be talking about some really punchy flavours. So one way that I like to look at it is don't think so much about what you're letting go of. Don't think about the meat that you can't have anymore or the cheese that you can't have anymore. Think about all the doors that it opens. Think about all the new exciting ingredients that are going to come into your life, the challenges in cookery that you're going to face and overcome. So yeah, I myself, I grew up in a household where we ate meat, so I haven't always been vegetarian. I had to make the shift. And I find now that I much prefer the vegan diet that I have to I don't miss meat at all. So, okay, let's start with, the first thing I'm going to be actually making today is going to be a no-bake chocolate cake. So you can do this raw. The only ingredient today that isn't raw that I'm using is I use boiling water to soak the dates. So if you'd like to stick to a raw diet, you can just use cold water and soak the dates for slightly longer, for a few hours or overnight, instead of just for 10 or 15 minutes in boiling water. So I'll just run through the ingredients. We've got about 300 grams of medjool dates, which, as I say, I've soaked and then drained off the water. We're going to be using organic raw cacao powder. I'm going to put in about 4 tablespoons. You can adjust this to your taste. If you don't like that really intense dark raw chocolate flavour, you can put a bit less in. We've got here a mixture of melted cacao butter and coconut oil. There's about 60 grams of the cacao butter and 20 grams of the coconut oil, so 80 in total. That is going to make up, and some tahini as well. We'll be putting in about 2 or 3 tablespoons of the tahini. So that's going to make the sticky, fudgy, chocolatey base. And then to add in some different texture and some different flavours, we're going to just be adding in some mixed nuts. Again, any nuts that you like, any that is your favourite, you can put in. I've got a mixture in there of Brazils and pecans and cashew nuts. Dried fruit, again, totally up to you, just experiment, play with flavours. Today I'm going to put in some cranberries. And to sprinkle on top, I've got some desiccated coconut. But the beauty of no-bake cuisine is that you can really be quite experimental with it. It's not as strict. It's not when you're trying to make a cake, then you need it to rise. You need to keep the amounts of the ingredients really exact. But with the no-bake stuff, you can play around with it a little bit, be a bit more creative and a bit more fluid. So I'm going to take all the ingredients for the fudgy base over to the food processor. So I'm going to put, first of all of the dates in. If there's a tiny little bit of the soak water left, it doesn't matter. It will just help actually to make the mix a little bit more fluid and mix a bit easier. So as I say, I'm going to put in about 4 tablespoons of the raw cacao powder because I'm a complete chocoholic. I love the chocolate. I'm going to put in the oils, the cacao butter and the coconut oil. And I'm going to put in 3 tablespoons of the tahini. When I start to put the food processor on and see how it mixes, I might add a little bit more if it looks a little bit too sticky. So obviously err on the side of caution, put a little bit less in first. You can always add more, you can't take it out. So in goes 3 tablespoons of tahini. We'll be talking a bit more about tahini later when I move on to the savoury recipes and ideas. That goes in there. We're just going to blend that until it's fairly smooth, until it's like a fudgy consistency. You can tell when that happens because it starts to kind of turn into a ball that moves around the processor. So we're now going to take this off. Don't know if you can see in there, but it's a delicious, gooey, fudgy, chocolatey mix. Scrape that off the blade. So again, this can be the starting point for loads of different raw chocolates, puddingy ideas. You can start with this base and you can add all different ingredients, different flavours, be experimental. So I'm going to put in a handful of cranberries to mix through. I'm going to put in my mixture of nuts, cashews, Brazil nuts and pecans. Mix that all around. Then I've got a shallow tray here that's lined with some greaseproof paper. So just make sure your ingredients are fully mixed around, they're all evenly spread through the mix, and then tipping this into your tray. Again, you can play with the presentation. It's nice to put this into little rubber cupcake molds or even into little chocolate molds. You can press them in and put them into the freezer for a bit of a difference in presentation. So just make sure we get all of that yumminess out of there. And just press it firmly down into the tray. Oh, it smells so good. I wish you had smell-o-vision on this video. So don't worry about how sticky or runny it is at the moment. Once you put it into the fridge or the freezer, because you've got the oils in there, they're going to solidify it once it freezes. So okay, so we spread that around, and then just on top I'm going to take a handful of the desiccated coconut, sprinkle that all over. It's a good idea just to make sure that that doesn't stay all loose and crumbly and just fall off the top, just take the back of your spatula again, just press it down gently to make sure it's attached to the cake. So if you're really desperate for a chocolate fix, you can put it in the freezer and it will obviously be set quicker. Otherwise you can put it into the fridge, and in the fridge in about a couple of hours time, it'll be nice and solid and you can slice it up into chunks, and you've got a really delicious, guilt-free, refined, sugar-free vegan cake there, little sweet snack that you can have. So now I've got your attention with the chocolate, we can move over to some of the savoury ingredients. So as I say, sometimes you can read vegan recipes, and if you don't recognise the ingredients, it can be a little bit off-putting. So one of those ingredients that you might not have used if you're not doing vegan cookery is nutritional yeast. So if you can see in the bowl, it's like small flakes. It's like a powdery, flaky consistency. And as the name suggests, it's made from yeast, from dried yeast, and it also has high nutritional value. So even in just a quarter cup of nutritional yeast, there's 8 grams of protein, 2 grams of fibre, and lots of B vitamins. So it's not only tasty, but it's really, really good for you on the fibre and protein front. So the flavour that it provides us is a cheese flavour. This is a cheese replacement for your vegan cooking. So there's so many things that you can use the nutritional yeast for. I'm just going to run through some ideas, but if you go onto, there'll be some posts on our Facebook page, or there'll be some blogs on our House of Light website if you want. I'm going to be doing a series of blogs now on vegan cookery with the exact measurements. But just to get you interested, so you can make it into like a cheesy crust. If you mix it with some crushed up almonds and some other herbs, you can do encrusted vegetables like roasted cauliflower, roasted sweet potato with cheesy crusty coating. You can make the equivalent of like a bechamel sauce. You can do a vegan version of that using dairy-free milk and olive oil, and you can use this along with Marmite, top tip, to get that tangy, cheesy flavour in a cheese sauce, which you can then use for cauliflower cheese, for lasagna, for pastas. You can make cheese scones, cheese flavoured biscuits. You can make a vegan pesto with the nutritional yeast. So really, there's so many options. If you think I can't live without cheese, then you can get a cheesy hit with the nutritional yeast. My second top tip is a jar full of roasted tamari seeds. I always have these on my shelf. I make them in bulk, have a big jar of them in an airtight container. They'll last for ages. So take any seeds of your choice. In there, I've got sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, and sesame seeds. Put them into a dry pan and toast them until you can start to smell the oils being released, and you can start to hear them crackle a little bit. At that point, leave the heat on and splash in a little bit of soy sauce, which all the moisture will evaporate immediately. Keep moving the seeds around, and then turn the heat off and let them just sit in the pan to dry out. And then after that point, I like to add in different flavours. So one of my favourites is to add in some smoked paprika, sprinkle that through. You could put some chili powder through for some seeds with a kick. You could mix through, for the flavours to come out of wasabi, you need to add the water. So at the same time as you add the soy sauce, you could add a little bit of wasabi paste for Japanese style seeds. So yeah, the options are endless. Again, really garlic powder. And these sprinkled on any salad, on grains, on any dish really, give you that really crunchy, salty, tasty addition. Moving on now to my next top tip to have in your larder, which might not be so unusual to have around, but cashew nuts. Cashew nuts are the base of many vegan puddings. If you soak them and then blend them, you get the base for a vegan cream. So you can make cheesecakes out of that. You can make kind of mousses, different mousses, by adding different flavours, by adding lemon and perhaps agave. So for desserts, these are an amazing ally to have in your cupboard. And also for savoury food, even just to put as they are through stir fries, they kind of replace that dense meatiness that you might miss if you're moving from a meat diet to a vegetarian or vegan diet. So really lovely through stir fries. Otherwise, you can make your own vegan cheese. So again, I'll post the recipe. There's about 10 ingredients, but once you've done it a few times and you become familiar with it, it's not so difficult. It incorporates another one of my favourite ingredients, tahini. It's coconut oil, lemon juice, tahini, cashew nuts, garlic powder. Another ingredient called agar-agar, which I don't know if you're familiar with or not. It's, instead of using gelatin, it's a setting agent that you can use in vegan cooking. So agar-agar powder, it's another good one to have in the cupboard. You can make desserts set, you can make vegan jellies with the agar-agar powder. So that's for homemade vegan cheese. Next up is, we've already used it in the no-bake chocolate cake, tahini. I now could not live without tahini. I put it in almost everything. So sweet treats that we've just used it in, you can also mix it with water and add a little bit of maple syrup for a really yummy kind of vegan cream, a sweet vegan cream. It's almost like a vegan custard. For savoury dishes, you can make all sorts of dressings. If you add oil and water to the tahini, it does this funny thing where it really thickens up, so it can really go a long way. You can use a little bit of tahini with water and oil. Keep mixing it, keep mixing it. If it looks too clumpy, keep adding water and it thins down again. So it's really versatile. You can make really delicious tangy, herby, lemony, garlicky dressings for salads. So there's our tahini. My last top tip is, it's not just a single ingredient, it's a marinade actually. It's a sticky barbecue marinade. You can see it's really black. It's almost like that kind of Texas, like you would put on ribs. But obviously it's a vegan version and I'm going to suggest some vegan options, but you know, to get that flavour, for the memory of the flavour of that barbecuey smoky flavour. This is made out of molasses, blackstrap molasses, some soy sauce, some sesame oil, some honey, which if you're a strict vegan, you wouldn't eat honey either, so you can replace that with coconut sugar. But I've used honey in this version, and some garlic and some smoked paprika. So this, I love to put it on sliced up aubergine. You paste it on both sides and you can griddle or oven bake the aubergine and you get a really, again, if you're missing that texture of meat, you get a really meaty texture. Also, celeriac is fantastic for that. If you cover the celeriac in this marinade and then you roast it in the oven, you get that really dense, meaty texture. So you can stop being fearful about feeling hungry all the time. You don't have to feel hungry if you go vegan. You can be really full and satisfied. So yeah, what are the top tips for the dip? Basically, anything that you want to roast or griddle. And then also keep a little bit on one side, because it's nice to paste an extra little bit or have some for dipping on the side. You can also, it doesn't have to be cooked, you can eat it raw. So yeah, those are my top tips: the barbecue marinade, the nutritional yeast, the roasted tamari seeds, tahini and cashew nuts. Just for a starting point, if you have these things in your larder or your fridge prepared, then you can explore lots of vegan recipes and make sure that there's loads of flavour packed in there. So I'm just going to check in with Sally, who's glancing at the laptop, and see if we've got any questions coming in, or...
We've got people with us. We haven't got any questions just yet. But I've never heard of tamari.
Tamari, as far as I know, is just a different name for soy sauce. I think it might be actually a gluten-free version of soy sauce. So you can get lots of different types of soy sauce. You can get the light and the dark, and tamari is just another variation of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your favourite, like, go-to? Have you got like a favourite go-to ingredient or quick snack?
I probably use mostly tahini. That's probably my most regularly used thing.
And that's sesame, isn't it?
Yeah, that's sesame. So there's another, if you look on our YouTube channel, there's a video of me making peanut butter, homemade peanut butter, and you can do tahini in exactly the same way. You just gently toast some sesame seeds, put them in a food processor on a slow setting with some salt, just start blending it. If you just stick with it and watch it, it'll start to thicken and turn into a paste and get a little bit more liquid, and you can make your own homemade tahini as well. Another ingredient that isn't here, I mean, I was spoilt for choice, so I was trying to limit it a little bit, but avocado. I mean, avocado, again, when you just mentioned a quick snack, if I'm starving, then either Marmite or miso on toast with avocado and tomato on top. Avocado is also fantastic for vegan puddings. I make an amazing key lime pie where the topping is literally just ripe avocados, agave and lime juice, and you get that key lime pie topping. So that would be another one of my favourite, just snacks that's just there ready. You don't have to do anything to it hardly. So
have you made butter can you make butter from the cashew nuts as a butter replacement?
Yeah, absolutely, in exactly the same way as you make the peanut butter and the tahini. So you can either use raw cashews or you can toast them slightly just to release some of the oils in a food processor on a slow setting. Just let it grind round and round and round, and eventually it will turn into cashew nut butter. You can do that actually with pretty much any nuts. You can make any nut butter that you like. I've experimented with a few. I've done it with hazelnuts, I've done it with almonds, I've done it with cashews, with peanut. So which is also just great things to have in your larder as either a quick snack or in addition to puddings, vegan puddings. There's lots of vegan puddings that use nut butters as that kind of cream replacement.
I think it's the butter and the cheese, isn't it, that's the hardest.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
Well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm suggesting today a recipe for homemade vegan cheese. You might think, oh God, that's a step too far, I can't be bothered. There's loads of really good ranges out now, actually. You can buy any types of flavour. You know, you can buy cheddar flavour, you can buy cream cheese, vegan cream cheese, vegan mozzarella. I bought one the other day, actually, a vegan feta that was really, really tasty. So yeah, I felt a bit panicky about letting go of cheeses, but there's so many good things out on the market at the moment. It's you don't have to feel such a loss on that level.
And the most important question is, when's that fridge cake going to be ready?
Well, I've foolishly not put it in the fridge yet, so we're going to have to wait a bit longer for that. So, what time do you leave?
1 o'clock or later.
We'll squeeze it in before then. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up there. Please do type it, message in any questions that you have. I'm really happy to answer anything, share my passion of vegan food, and I hope you enjoy exploring and getting creative with vegan cookery. Okay, I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now. You always do that at the end.
It's still on, I think.
Stop it.